So team, welcome to Selenium plus Java Advanced Live Training Day 1. Yesterday we have completed the orientation session. The idea of orientation session was to give you what is this Selenium is all about, considering people who come for the first time. So we kind of quickly looked at the agenda was what is this introduction. Basically we have given an introduction to Selenium tool itself. Like I started putting all the information into a document, basically a Google document. I'll just quickly walk through it in the first 5 minutes, and then we'll take the next topic. So I have created this Selenium March 16 folder. This will be the one it will be shared with all of you for the entire course in terms of all the examples, what we do, the scripting examples and everything what we discussed. So we discussed Selenium is basically a freeware or an open source automated functional testing suite, and it's used only for the web applications. That is a kind of limitation, but if you look at the current trend of applications or the number of applications that are there in the market, web applications plays a major role. Windows applications are very, very less. The other side of it, what you see is an apps related to mobile or tablets. So that's the trend. So considering that, it's definitely the popular in terms of web applications. And it's not just for a single set of a browser. By default, it works with Firefox browser, but you can definitely, we will see as how we can use it for different browsers like Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge, many other browsers, Opera, right? So we can use it for all of them. And coming to operating system platform, also we discussed it's not just for Windows, unlike in qtvr UFT, which works only for a Windows operating system. This works for your Windows, Unix, Linux, Mac, whatever the operating system that you have it. If you want to still compare, you can compare it is similar to qtvr UFT. Because the comparison, why we are doing this comparison is typically you take any automation tool, they work with a basic principle. If you consider any automation tool, they work with a basic principle of recording and playback. The minimum is recording and playback. But on top of it, automation test engineer does a lot of validations for his test cases. He will use some kind of a scripting language to do the best set of validations, like maybe he has to repeat certain code number of times, so he will write some loops, or for doing the validations he'll use some conditional statements. And to go into reusability part of it, we'll write a lot of functions. Functions are methods. And then here, in case of Selenium, it uses the object-oriented programming language like Java. So you will even go define into classes, objects, methods, etc. Inheritance of one class into another class. So many advantages you will get. So basic comparison is like another commercial tool like QTP UFT, or you can even compare with Microsoft Visual Studio Test Suite if you heard about it, or you can compare this with a rational IBM, rational suite or rational robot. It also provides a basic recording and playback, but this is very, very minimal in terms of Selenium. When we work with the first component, that is the IDE, in the first 2 to 3 days is where, even in the 3 days, only first 1 day, I'll show you how you do recording and playback. But later on, from the day 2 onwards, everything what you're going to do is depends on your scripting skills, depends on how you can write the script, and how you can do the validations in those corresponding language. But that doesn't mean nothing to worry, because we're going to start from a very, very basic level. Even though we call it as a course as advanced, it definitely covers a lot of basics. Then we'll also definitely ensure what is currently required by the Selenium people when you go for an interview. So all that will be covered in terms of like in-depth WebDriver, Selenium Grid, page object model, integration with Apache Maven, Jenkins, so all that will be covered. So but the basic idea why we always say it is quite similar to one of the commercial tool is just in case if somebody has already idea about this tool, the concepts like the way you have done a data-driven test there, something similar we are going to do it here. The way you have done some checkpoints or validations, we are going to do it here. The way you have written a conditional statement in a VB script, here you're going to do it in a Java. So just to ease out the thing, we compare. But if you did not have any idea about any other automation tool, that is actually well and good. The reason because you can start this as your first tool and focus on how you're going to do it unique to this particular tool. In fact, I have observed people who know the other tool, sometimes they'll try to little bit confuse. But if you don't know any other tool, you can consider this as your first tool and invest your time in learning the concepts and learning the way you do the programming with Selenium with Java. Selenium can use any of these languages, like it can use Java, C#, Python, Ruby, so many other languages also. As we see, we'll see. But what we are going to focus in this entire course, as I said, it will be a Java language. If you have to do it on a C# or a Python or a Ruby, it's again altogether different learning, because not completely, but when you learn the entire Java, let's say, and if you wanted to switch to C#, there will be another 30–40% of efforts you have to put. The way you write a for loop in Java might be a little different from C#, but the idea, what you wanted to do, what you want to test, that is going to remain same. Same case with when you move to Python and Ruby, so another 30–40% of time you have to invest in that particular language. We also discussed the purpose of any automation tool, not just Selenium tool, is this is the main thing. Why we go for any automation tool is for regression testing. What exactly regression testing is, let me just give an example so that you will not just about regression testing, but why we go for it, because this is the fundamental day one class, so you should be very clear why we actually go for an automation testing if you did not have any idea about automation testing. Let us suppose you are working on a product and there are about, let's say, 500 test cases, and the first version of the product being given to you for the testing. When the first version of the product is given, you do not have any automation, so you're going to execute all these 500 test cases manually, let us assume. But today's world, even from the day one, even from the first version, they wanted to make use of some automation. So I'll explain that later, but let's assume we have not done any automation so far. First version of the product is released and you have 500 test cases. On an average, let us assume you can execute 20 test cases per day. 20 test cases per day, day means 8 hours. In that 8 hours also, we normally estimate 6 hours is your execution time. Remaining 2 hours is for your meetings, mails, etc., etc. So 20 test cases per day, and let's assume you have 5 team of testers. Okay, so that way, how many you can execute? You can execute 100 test cases per day because you have 5 people. Okay, but typically what we do now, to complete 500 test cases, how many days you would need? 500 test cases, you would need 5 working days, right? And typically we don't do only one cycle, we'll do it 2 cycles. So first cycle will give it to X person, and the second cycle will give it to another person, so that if he missed out anything, we'll be able to find out. So in a way, you require 10 working days to test this and sign off the product 1.0. With how many people? With 5 people. If you have only, let's say, 2 people, then this will be definitely going beyond like 25 days, right? So you can consider that complexity. But let's assume with 5 people it's going into 10 days. First version with 5 people, 10 days seems to be okay. People will give you this time and you will be able to execute comfortably in 10 days and you will take a decision whether to sign off or not. But the challenge lies from the next release onwards. Let us assume this you have successfully completed. All 500 test cases are executed 2 times in 10 days. Maybe for some delay, whatever you have signed off in 12 days, that is well and good, and the product is gone live. After a few months, the next version of the product came into picture. Let us say that is 2.0. And in this 2.0, what they are doing, whatever is existing in 1.0, they made some enhancements. They made some changes or they made some enhancements, extra features being added. Let us say for this, you have about 200 test cases. For the new features that is implemented in 2.0, you came up with 200 test cases. Since it was a first version, they have given 5 people, but later on they moved 3 of them into a different project. That's a very common thing that happens in the organizations. So let us assume you have only 2 testers now. Okay, 2 testers are given to you. Same case, 20 test cases per day. How many days? 20 test cases per day with 1 person. 2 persons will execute 40 test cases per day. And if you want to execute 200 cases, you would need 5 days. If you want to do 2 cycles, you would need 10 days. This is still okay because you have 200 test cases and only 2 testers, and this is your average rate of execution. And that's the way you are able to complete with 2 people only 40 test cases per day. And to cover all 200, you would need 5 days. And if you want to do 2 cycles, you would need 10 days. But actually speaking, only 200 is not sufficient to execute when you go for 2.0. What can happen is that when they make the changes to the code, when they modify certain codes and add some code in the 2.0, there are highly chances what you implemented in 1.0 will break. That means you have to go and execute some of these 500 also. That testing is what we call it as a regression testing, ensuring what we previously tested and signed off in 1.0 is not broken. For that worst case, you may need to execute all these 500. I don't expect that way, but let's assume this 200 is not sufficient. You have to execute another 200 from 1.0. So with 2 people, how many days you would need again? Again, you would need another 10 days. So totally how much you would need for 2.0? You would need 20 days of testing. So then the challenge lies. Okay, brand new 1.0, you are able to sign off it in 10 to 12 days. Of course, there are 3 more testers extra, but 2.0 with simple features being added, you would need 20 days for testing. Of course, I understand 2 people are there, but considering even if I add another 2 people, it will come down to same time as we have it here. This is going to be a challenge. Probably you may not get this amount of time. And this story continues again when you go to next 3.0. Suppose you got another 3.0 after 3 months. Same story, new test cases, let's say 200, old you have to run 300 because out of 500 plus 200, 700, let's say you have to run 300. So total test cases you have to run 500. Again, you would ask for another 20 to 25 days of manual testing. So then people start questioning, why can't you automate something? Why don't you do some automation when you move from one version to another version so that you can, this particular testing which you call regression testing, you can automatically run it. So that is where the automation people, people try to use automation. If you are very sure after 1.0 or 2.0 this product is going to stop, then better don't go for automation. The reason because the amount of time that you invest in automating the regression, you're not going to get its return on investments if your product is going to stop. But if you know your product is going to continue 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, at least couple of releases, then it is definitely worthwhile to go and spend some time in automation. So for example, let's say when you moved from 1.0 to 2.0, out of 500, suppose this 200 you have, even in this 100 you have automated, for example. So this will immediately by 2 it will become, and then you will get only 5 days. That means totally you are going to sign off in 15 days only. And automation, you can run it parallelly on a different machine. So you don't need to really be spending any time for it. So that's the idea why we actually go for automation testing. So anybody has any questions in this explanation? Why you think we go for automation? So, and now some people are started targeting from the first version itself, why can't we do some automation? So that in this 500 itself, we can use something using automation. So that is a target that companies are looking for. Any questions, team? Why we are going for automation testing? Because once we get into the tool like Selenium, we won't get time to discuss all these things. And if you have this basic question in your mind, why we are actually doing an automation, then it's a problem. I'm not getting any responses. Yes, no, are you clear? Okay, and as you were aware, talking yesterday, we can watch Karthik. Okay. Okay, okay. Fine. All right. So let's go back. And then, so that's what is the meaning of regression testing or retesting. And then we also said it works for different browsers. So you can use it for IE browser, Chrome browser, Firefox browser, Edge browser, all different kinds of browsers. Like I kind of showed you everything, you'll get it from this website, seleniumhq.org website. This is where you'll find all the information. If you have to work on IE driver, this is the one that you have to download based on your machine and work it. If you're going to use Java language, then you need these bindings. This is for language. If you want C# bindings, you have to download this. If you want a Ruby binding, then you have to go for this, Python, JavaScript. And if you want a Safari driver, Safari browser, then this one. If you want a Chrome browser, Opera, Ghost, all these are here, Edge browser, etc. So everything is, this is a one-stop shop for all your Selenium things. seleniumhq.org is a website. All right. So one second. Okay. As you are talking yesterday, we can watch Karthik's video. Okay, I'll talk about those videos. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, we can, if you can parallelly plan it, Sridevi, we can do automation from V1 also, first version also. That is pretty much possible. Okay, so, and then I kind of touched upon these few things, that it can also be used for different operating systems, and I kind of touched upon the history of it, when it started. The first version came in 2004, and he's the primary person who developed it. Later on, it was not very popular at that time, but Google has spent some money and investments, and then they came up with the next version called 2.0, and he's one of the lead engineer for that. If you look into the components of Selenium 1.0 and 2.0, 1.0 was having IDE, even we have 2.0 also having the IDE. This is where we actually do some basic recording and playback. After that, we don't do any recording and playback. And in 1.0 there was a component called RC that's totally deprecated now, and they had a component called grid1 that is also deprecated, but these two combined and developed a powerful IDE called WebDriver. Basically, it developed something called WebDriver 2.0. So WebDriver 2.0 is a mix of Selenium RC plus RC plus, I would say, WebDriver 1.0. There was a 1.0 component actually. I missed it. So we had Selenium. No, we had WebDriver 1.0 also. So that's a mix of these two. And they also had a grid, which is grid 1, that's being made into a powerful one called grid 2.0. So these are the components we are going to touch in the latest one. We are going to spend 3 days on IDE, 30-35 sessions on WebDriver, few sessions on grid. So these are the major components. Apart from this, of course, we'll also see integration with build tools like Apache Maven, integration with CI/CD tool. What is CI/CD? Is continuous integration and continuous deployment. So this is another tool called Jenkins, integration with CI/CD tool like Jenkins. Okay, so this is not aware of it. Let's add it to personal dictionary. Apart from this, we'll discuss so many things like, how to read or write from Excel, because if you have to do data-driven test, what is DDT? Data-driven test, where you want to test single application with multiples of test data, then we will go for how we can read the data from an Excel, how we can write the data into Excel. We do this using Apache POI. So there is an Apache POI jar files. So we'll use that and we'll do this data-driven test where application is one. For example, you have a registration form, and the registration form you're going to test with 100 different registration details, like a different username, different passwords, different email IDs, etc. Suppose you have a customer form, first name, last name, contact number, email. So you're going to test with hundreds, thousands of different data. So we'll do that, how we can read and write from Excel. This will be useful for your data-driven test as well as keyword-driven test, keyword-driven framework. So this will be helpful. In fact, hybrid also. For all of them, this is the main. If you have to develop a data-driven framework or a keyword-driven framework or hybrid framework, so you should know first of all how you can actually read and write the data from Excel. So that we will do it with something called Apache POI. Apart from this, we do database testing. For that, again, I'll show you with something like MySQL, but I'll also discuss for Oracle and SQL so that you can use it based on your application, how you can actually connect to the database, how you can read the data from the database, how you can do some comparison whether your data on the application, data in the database is matching or not, as you can also check all that. So that's like more of a doing a database testing. And one other thing is definitely parallel execution, parallel test execution, with Selenium grid. So this grid configuration also little bit challenging or tough is what people feel. So we'll spend about 2 sessions how we can configure this grid. So there will be a it will be like this. Suppose after development of so many tests, now you have to run them parallelly, because if you run sequentially, it's going to take a lot of time. So we are going to set one hub as one machine. Hub is nothing but one machine, you can consider it to be. Under that, we'll set so many nodes. Let's say this is node 1, another machine, and this is node 2, and this is node n. So n number of nodes you can set it. And here I will run one Selenium script that could be with Windows and Internet Explorer. And another node, I'm going to run another Selenium script that could be with Windows and Chrome. I'll run another machine, another Selenium script, which could be like Macintosh with, let's say, Firefox. So like this, you can run 1, 2, 3. In fact, more than that. Actually, you can run one Internet Explorer under one node. Only under one node, you can run one Internet Explorer, one Google Chrome, and 5 Firefox at a time. So that means in one node, you can run 7 scripts. Like that, if you have 3 nodes, you can run 21 scripts parallelly. So we'll see that with the help of a concept called grid. So how we configure this hub, how do we configure these nodes, how do we run these scripts. So all that we are going to spend in 2 days and try to understand this one. Okay, so lot of interesting topics are around, along with the, definitely we'll be discussing the interview questions in every topic, what kind of scripting examples that they will ask. Another biggest thing what we're going to do in WebDriver is, when we are actually working with WebDriver, what you are going to majorly learn is working with different types of locators, or you can call it as controls, is your major learning. See, at the end of the day, any application that you take, for example, if it is a web application, any application typically what will have, this is your web page. In a web page, there could be some frames like this, right? And what kind of controls these frames will have? There could be a text box, there could be a drop down, there could be an editor where you can type multiple lines, there could be a radio button, there could be a checkbox, there could be a list box, as I discussed, there could be a button, right? And there can be a grid or a table, and this is a frame. So how do we work with all these different controls is your major thing. So when I say WebDriver with about 30 sessions, what we're going to do is we're going to look at different controls, like, starting from how do you work with a web page, or a form, or a frame, or a table, kind of table or grid. How do you work with a text box? Like if I have a text box, how can I set the value to the text box? How can I retrieve the value from the text box? How can I work with a list box? List box, or you can say drop down, right? How can I work with a button? How can I work with a checkbox, a radio button, right? A push button. All these, each one requires a good amount of learning, because at the end of the day, when you go and start automating a project, all you see is a web page with different controls. So if you know how to work with these different controls, and if you know the Java language, how to add some if conditions, how to add some for loops, how to add some while conditions, then you will automatically develop the script. So your major knowledge bank is on this. What we are going to do differently in WebDriver with the different controls. The challenge lies in, as soon as you see a control, how to identify that control first with my automation. So there are different locator identification mechanisms. So this is where we'll start with different locator identification mechanisms. Like, typically when your developer develops these web forms, uh, they will put something called every control with some ID, and they will put some name to it, or there will be something called class name. So there are about 8 different mechanisms that we will be discussing: how to identify with ID, how to identify with name, how to identify with class name. If it is a link, we'll go with a link text, or if the link text is very big, then you can go for partial link text. Then you can actually go for a very important called XPath, how to write CSS. So all these things is where the WebDriver 2030 sessions, which we're going to discuss, will take time. And sometimes the challenge is the controls keep changing dynamically. So how do you take care of those dynamically changing controls? So all that we're going to discuss here. So any questions so far? I'm going to take a pause for a minute and see if you have any questions that I can address at this point of the time. I'm just want to check whether it is meeting with your expectations, what you're going to learn here, or do you have anything, a different idea, is what I want to check. Okay, sounds good. Not now, no. So that means, is it meeting your expectations, what you wanted to learn from it? Yeah, Java language, obviously. See, without Java language, you cannot do anything. So Java language, so my style will be slightly different. Of course, we have complete Java language videos which are done by Karthik, that also you can go through. But my approach will be, for example, when I start with the validations, then I'll be introducing how to write if conditional statements in Java, how to declare variables, how to declare an integer type of variable, string type of variable, Boolean type of variable. So I'll spend few minutes then and there how to declare variable, and then I'll explain how to do conditional statements like an if statement or a while, basically if statement, and then do that example. And the next example, when I go, I have to do some looping. Then I'll introduce what is for loop, how to write for loop. So my approach will be not Java languages as something like a separately taking out of the course and learning it. As and when we need it, I will be covering the topic within few minutes, and then I'll come back and complete that example. So that's the way we always be in touch with Java language. So you will never be leaving that as outside. Yeah, Java basics is enough. Basics of Java is enough. Like, starting from variables, constants, loops, how do you work with loops, conditional statements like if conditional, select case statements, loops like for loop, while loop, do while loop. Then how do you define methods in a Java, how do you write classes in Java, how do you inherit one class into another class. So those are the major things we're going to do it. Of course, yeah, select case statements, working with strings is what we are going to look at, working with files. Anyway, we are going to look at Excel files, CSV files, document files, etc. All right. So let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, what I wanted to do is I want to cover one more topic, that is basically, um, since this is again a kind of a demo and a day one session, I want to cover it up in detail, differences between the QTP and Selenium. So that way you can understand it much better. For example, here I will take Selenium and here I'll take UFT/QTP. Again, this is only because these two are currently the popular. So based on this, you can take a call The market is good for both. Of course, a little bit high on the Selenium, because if you see the reasons, you will understand. So this is open source free tool. What about this? This is a commercial tool. That is the first difference. Commercial tool means you need to buy the license and renew on annual basis. Okay, and here it supports all browsers like IE, Google Chrome, Firefox. We have seen it in the document, Safari, Edge, etc. Here default is IE, but you can use it for other browsers also by, again you need to buy the plugin, buying the plugin, or you can call it as add-in. So for everything you have to buy the plugin separately, and it supports all the operating systems like Windows, Mac, Unix, Linux. Here it supports only Windows. Supports only Windows. So that is the challenge. If somebody is going to run their applications on any other operating system, and if their user base is majorly non-Windows, then there is a problem to use this particular UFT tool for automation purpose. Languages supported are, as we have seen in there in the website, Java. So suppose, let's say I have a team of people and the team is already comfortable in Java. So I can easily onboard them into Selenium because the team is coming from a Java background and they can pick up the Java as their language and start automating it. Let's say on the other side, the team is familiar with C#. So I don't need to make them to learn any language. I'll ask them to start directly using Selenium with C# and they are good. But QTP is not like that. You have to use either VBScript or JavaScript. So if they are coming from a C# or a Java background, or a Ruby or a Python or a JavaScript is the only thing that they can use. But other thing, they have to learn VBScript again to do your QTP. So that's the challenge. So here it's kind of ready-made. If you're not coming from any language background, that's a different story. Both of them are equal because anyway you have to learn it. But if typically coming from a particular programming background, you can easily switch. So languages are supported like Java, C#, Python, Ruby, Perl, JavaScript, etc. But here it supports only VBScript and JavaScript. And that too also I have seen. I worked in QTP again, so just because I'm teaching here Selenium, I don't want to discourage. I worked almost for about 7 years on this particular QTP or UFT tool. I was there right from the first version of it, which is 6.5. It got released in 2002. Before that, I was in Windrunner. So I'm the one who migrated from Windrunner to QTP to Selenium. So I don't want to discourage any features of QTP that I have used, but we have to speak the truth at this point of the time, what is currently available in Selenium compared to that. So you have to, most of the people, 95% of the people have seen they use VBScript. So even though it supports both. So that is the situation for the language perspective. Another important point is Selenium is extendable. I can say extendable and flexible. What does it mean by extendable? There are a lot of companies, what they do, since the Selenium, the core engine, the automation engine is free, they'll take Selenium, they develop a lot of things on top of it, and they try to sell it as a new tool. They try to sell it as a new framework, which is like product of that company. Anybody see the outer line? They really feel it's something new, but the internal engine, what they have actually used is Java. So that means you can take the code base of Selenium and you can extend it like anything. If you have good ideas, you can extend it like anything. And you can completely sell it as a new tool. I've seen companies doing that. Flexible in the sense, anyway, it's the language perspective. So that perspective, I can definitely say QTP is also flexible. QTP is also flexible, but it cannot be extensible. It cannot be extendable. Why it cannot be extendable? Because you will not get the code base and you cannot develop on top of it. Whereas Selenium is free, so you can take and extend it. It supports mobile testing also. I told you, like apart from web applications, the other area where it is you see most of the applications is mobile apps and tablet apps. But again, so that is not part of this discussion because altogether that is a different thing. But just to understand the feature or an advantage, we can talk about it. It supports mobile testing. QTP also supports mobile testing, but using a third-party software. So there is another software that you have to integrate with this to get the job done. Till now we talked about advantages, but disadvantage is it's used only for web-based applications. This cannot be used. Selenium cannot be used. Can't be used for Windows applications. So this is only for web-based applications, whereas this can be used for both Windows and web-based. So that's the advantage of QTP. Till if there are some Windows applications, you want to use it, QTP is the best one. And since it is a freeware, there is no official support is being offered. What does it mean? If you get into some problem, let's say, there is nobody to immediately call a customer care or dial up somebody and say, hey, I have this problem, can you come and help me? But in case of QTP, because it's a commercial tool and they are run with a proper customer care mechanism and everything, and their customer care mechanism majorly is in UK. So if you have to install or you got stuck something into some problem, all you have to do is drop an email to them, and the technical team will call you and try to help you. And in case of big organizations, when they are rolling this for the first time, I know people traveled from UK to help those organizations. So they do that. But here everything is free. So there is no somebody to help you. But since the usage of the tool is very, very high, all you have to do is open a browser, go to Google, type your problem. I'm sure you will get a solution. Because so many people are using it and the problems are very common, obviously you will find the solutions over the internet. In fact, I also do the same thing during my work, even when I try to do something at training, if I get some error that I have not encountered previously, all I'll do is just go to Google and search it, and you will see some or the other way of solution for it. So this one provides a professional customer support. So if you ask me how many companies are using Selenium, how many companies are using QTP, definitely the ratio would be around 60-40 at this point of the time. Those 40 are big multinational companies who don't want to take a chance with freeware software because they want a professional customer support if something happens. So that's why that less count. Otherwise, people would have been easily gone to 70-80% of it. So this is the typical differences between the immediate comparison tool that we have, that is qtvr UFT. So any questions? Okay, there are some few questions. Let me take them. Yeah, I'm actually done for what I wanted to discuss for day one. So it's all your time. Just put your questions in the chat about the course, what you're going to learn, everything. So I don't want to too much overload on the day one. So, but now I'm sure you all got an idea what you're going to learn, how you're going to learn in this particular course. So in spite of that, if you have any questions, just put it. So one thing that I can say is immediately if you complete the registration process and everything, you don't need to wait until my live session starts. What you can do is once you go into login into the ATLN website, there are two things you can do. You'll find the latest batch videos that are started in Jan 16. That is by me. Again, my name is Shankar, so that is by me. You can start going through them. That is also one approach. Just before the Jan 16, I don't remember the exact month, but October or November, Karthik has done one batch. So you can take those videos and start going through it. Either of these two you have to do because we have some time to start the live sessions. So meanwhile, you can finish either the Karthik's videos of the previous batch or my batch videos that I've started in Jan 16, which is still going on. But I would say around 60% is completed. So you can either go through these videos or you can go through Karthik's videos. Okay, Nurja has a question. Comparison between QTP and Selenium. Okay, what is your question, Nurja, in that? Okay, Jyoti says where I have to click. Did you log in into the website, Jyoti? After logging in it, you will see different categories: Selenium videos, QA fundamental videos, Java fundamental videos. Like that, you'll see different categories. Okay, but you will see those options only if you are a member of that particular course. If you have taken a membership for some other course, and if you are looking for Selenium, you won't find. You will find only demo and day one. After that, you won't find other videos. So if you have taken a membership for Selenium, then you will find Selenium videos. It's course-wise segregated. All right. So any other questions, team? So before the next live session, that's what is my suggestion. Go through any of the previous batch videos, either my videos or Karthik videos. Yesterday's video should be coming into website today, and it will be coming to YouTube also. Valli has one question. Could you please give some more information about Apache Jenkins, how Selenium with Apache Jenkins? So I kind of touched upon them. Apache POI, we use it for read and writing it from any Microsoft Office documents. It could be Word or Excel. So I will be using Apache POI for Excel. And Jenkins and everything, it's a big thing that we have to discuss. For example, see, the Selenium is about Java and Java runtime files, jar files. And those jar files keep on updating on a weekly basis or sometimes on a daily basis. Suppose you created a project using one of the jar file with a version, let's say 3.0.1, 3.01. But when you're running the project, that has become outdated and there is another version available in their website, let's say 3.0.1 0.2. So this Apache Maven will automatically take care of those problems. It will download the 3.0.2 and it will run your project without any problem. So to take care of those jar file dependencies and everything, we use Apache Maven for the build purpose. Jenkins, you wanted to run on a daily basis. So this is a big thing in every organization, including me, as a senior SDET lead for my organization, and a lot of organization test leads in the organization are planning to achieve is continuous integration and continuous deployment. On a daily basis, developers will submit the code. On a daily basis, build should be deployed. Build will be generated and then it will be deployed, and then we want the automation to pick and run on the daily basis automatically. Nobody should require to start any automation. Nobody should be in the office to start an automation. We want automation to run integrated with the continuous code. So this is a big target that most of the companies are using, called continuous integration and continuous deployment. So daily code will be checked in, daily deployment will happen, daily automation also should run without any intervention, and then it should send out a mail whether it is being successful, not successful. So that is a target where we use Jenkins to support that. Hope that's clear at this point of the time. Then we have to see in detail how we can do that. Anybody has any other questions? Can we automate from Initia? We can do that. We can, as long as the first project is started, we can parallelly think about automation also. Yeah, I'm sorry for the people who got disappointed that as we are not seeing the tool. These are two demo sessions. We wanted to get clarifications for most of your questions, and then we'll start with the tool in the day 2. Okay. So J3, if you are a Mo student, definitely you should get all the access for everything. So write an email to learn@itlearn.com. They'll point you to the exact videos. So you will have an access to everything. All right. Any questions, team? Don't worry about the language. Don't worry about the tool. When we start, we'll start from a very basic level. And by the time you finish, it'll be definitely you will be in advanced. So only thing you have to do is, apart from 1 hour session that I'm going to take, you have to spend at least another 2 hours from your side for practice. That's the only way you can master. All right, any other questions? I'm sure there are some questions like which one is popular. Hope I've answered through my discussion. What are the extra features in UFT? Then you have to deal the complete UFT tool itself. But at this point of the time, I gave clear differences in terms of outline what it can do and what it cannot do, both of them. So I'm sure this should be good enough to understand the difference. But other things, VBScript or JavaScript also supports, it's not object oriented, but it is object based. You can also write class, you can also write method, but you cannot really inherit from one class into another class in UFT. But Java, you can inherit one class into another class. So we'll do all that. All right. All right, team. So please get in touch with learn@itlearn.com for any questions on video access. The next, when we are going to start the live session, I already told you, like, we have about 2 to 3 weeks of time in between where you can start going through these videos. The latest batch that I've done in Jan, or you can pick up any Karthik's videos and start going through data-driven framework, keyword-driven framework, etc. So because it will be about 60 sessions that you are going to learn, out of which 40 sessions will be live sessions and 20 anyway you have to do videos. So why don't you start going through them now? That's the whole idea. If you cannot really follow something, when I start the live, we'll go in a very fundamental. I'm sure you will be doing much better job than people who don't go through videos in that particular time. So it's a make use of better make use of the time. All right. So with that, we'll take a pause here and then see you in the live sessions. All right. Thank you. Thank you, team.